This is a public hearing to consider the 2024 proposed Lake County tax budget. The procedure for this hearing is the hearing will be held in accordance with Section 5705.03 of the Ohio Revised Code for the primary purpose of hearing endorsements and or objections to the proposed 2024 Lake County tax budget. The public hearing will be recorded. The clerk will read the affidavit of publication. This can be waived. Gentlemen, are we okay with waiving that? All right, thank you. The Lake County, legal, you okay with that? Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, the Lake County Budget Director is now asked to comment on the proposed tax budget. Sir?
Good morning, Commissioners. As required by state law, we did an advertisement for the proposed 2024 tax budget a few weeks ago that we would have a public hearing, and the board will be considering the adoption on July 13th, 2023. It includes the general fund, child welfare, which is JFS, Board of Developmental Disabilities, AMS Board, Narcotics Agency, Crime Lab, and the Senior Citizens Levy. We sent out requests to various departments. We did send out a little bit later this year because we were working on some ARPA projects as well as engineer projects as well. So a lot of these are based on estimates. What the tax budget does is show the need for the levies that are currently in place. With all the mills that were previously passed or within the inside mill, they have not changed from previous years. We haven't done that in numerous years, change anything. The general fund, as directed by the commissioners in the past, is revenues and expenditures. Basically, we always receive more requests than revenues, but for tax budget purposes, we make the revenues and expenditures equal. For the most part, this year's a little surplus with that. Hopefully, that will be the case. Just in summarizing the general fund, through the first 5 months of the year, we're hitting our projected revenues so far. Some concerns for 2024, just for everything. Is the inflation rate along with the slowing home sales. As the commissioners receive a monthly update from me on conveyance fees, it's been down the last, I believe, 11 months in a row. And just the uncertainty of an economic climate. Ms. Bell and Ms. Russo post a proposed tax budget online later today, and 2 copies will be on file with the auditor's office either later today and or tomorrow with that. Any questions that the board has? I provided you a summary or email yesterday with everything. Is there any questions that the commissioners have at this time?
Gentlemen? Very good. Mike, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the board will now receive any written or verbal comments on the proposed tax budget. The audience members are invited to speak at this time, or an agent may speak on their behalf, after stating their names and address in full in a clear and distinct voice for the record. The board requests that each person speak only once unless adding a statement for the record not previously made. Do you have anyone wishing to address the board at this time? Anyone at all? On the tax budget.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, just want to be sure. It's like, okay, this could get good. Okay, sorry for that editorial comment. All right, moving on. The Board of Commissioners will consider adopting the proposed 2024 Lake County tax budget at its regular meeting of Thursday, July 13, 2023 at 10 a.m. in the Commissioner Chambers. Additional written endorsements and or objections may be sent to the Clerk of the Board of Lake County Commissioners, 105 Main Street, Building A, 5th floor, Suite 513, Lake County Administration Center, Painesville, Ohio 44077 until 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, July 12, 2023. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting if there's no objections. All right, and I'm going to look on and we have Gallagher Sledge-O-Matic in the back of the room. Thank you, Sheriff, who is off camera. And I'm going to look to Summer. Do you want to just roll into the commissioner meeting, or did you want to shut down and restart? Roll into. All right, and thank you all for your patience with us. I would like to call to order the Lake County Board of Commissioner meetings this June 29th, 2023. This is the 25th meeting thereof. Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority. And may we use in our directives for the common good, and for thy honor and glory. Amen. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present.
Commissioner Regovich.
Here.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Here. Okay, this brings us to our first public comment portion. We do have two special certificates. First is going to be for, she goes by Bobby Walsh. Come on up, let's start this off. These are the fun parts of the meeting.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Eifley, Superintendent for Buildings and Grounds. We're here today to recognize Bobby Walsh for her 28 years of service, all within Buildings and Grounds. Bobby has been a dedicated employee, done a great job over those years. Currently, she's a custodian too. She worked her way up, and she also was at one time a parking lot attendant for the county. So we're just here to congratulate her. She's going to go into retirement, and I'm sure she's very happy about that.
Yay. Welcome, please. The microphone is yours. It's your it's open mic night for you. It's all you.
I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to work for the county so many years, and I just appreciate it, and it's been a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I believe Commissioner Plechnik has the certificate there, sir. Anything you care to add to the presentation, because it's not official until.
Mr. President, whereas after 28 years of dedicated service to the Lake County Buildings and Grounds Departments, Bobby Walsh has decided to retire. And whereas Bobby began her career in Lake County on April 10, 1995 as a custodian number 1, in addition to working in this role, Barbara held the position of parking lot attendant. Later, she was promoted to her current position for Buildings and Grounds. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Commissioners in and for Lake County, hereby extend our genuine and heartfelt appreciation to Bobby Walsh for her outstanding service, kindness, and dedication to Lake County. We wish her a fulfilling retirement, volunteering, traveling, and spending time with her family. God bless you, Bobby.
And if we present, and again, it's not official until. Come on up.
Congratulations.
And again, Bobby, thank you. You've been very patient and understanding with us. I know that you've worked for many boards of commissioners. That can't be easy. And you're still smiling, so. Okay, thank you. And now moving on to our GIS. We have, poor Bob, I'm going to mispronounce your name because I've been trying to get it right. So if I goof it up, please bear with me. Bob Gockel? Gockel. Got to get that emphasis in there, see? So with that, come on up. Let's light this fire here.
I didn't tell you funny.
It's okay, we've got time. The IT department hasn't said why
I
not.
just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy meeting here for the recognition. I appreciate it, and thank you all.
Oh, bless you, sir. No, that's... Now you can't get away that easy. There's been a lot of technology changes. Carolyn, I know you guys have only recently been working together. I don't know if you want to add anything, but I will ad lib a little bit here of a lot of the technology changes, all the transition in leadership. Again, always serving the public, making sure that our engineers, contractors, developers, there's always something out there. You've been there for the whole thing. How am I doing so far? I'm getting some nods there. Good, yeah. And for that, we say thank you. Thank you. And with that, Commissioner Plechnik.
Mr. President, Bob Gockel, we sincerely congratulate you on your retirement from the Lake County Geographic Information System Department, aka GIS.
No, it's tax map department.
Tax map department.
They're different.
Where are the engineers?
Well,
We work with them. That's
This-
fine.
this
you
would
didn't
be-
realize that you worked for this department for 42 years.
Just got promoted every last year.
But we extend our genuine and heartfelt appreciation to you for those 42 years, regardless of the department that you may have worked for. And in all seriousness, we do understand that the reason Lake County is different from so many other local governments is that we've had folks who've gone through their entire careers with us. You chose to give your life to Lake County. And that's made all the difference in the world. Our county administrator started his career here in planning and worked his way up. You started your career here. Bobby started her career here. And you chose to give your entire life in service to your neighbors. That gave a higher quality and level of service that we can't hope to duplicate unless other people make the same public service and sacrifice that you have. And I'm hopeful that your career will stand as example for all of your colleagues here and will inspire other people to give their life to public service for Lake County.
Thank you.
And Bob, not to put too fine a point on it, I'm just going to stick with calling you by your first name because
That's fine.
I'm going to goof up the emphasis there. But I think this also is a teachable moment of how so many of these different departments, there's that fine line of where one begins, the other ends. They all work
together.
hopefully harmoniously to the point where we just interchangeably flow through things.
Yep.
So for that, we thank you because that is one of the hardest things to pull off, that service to community. And
Thank you. I
you've,
appreciate
again,
that.
been a key player in that. And as I always like to say at moments like this, it's not official until we present it, so come on up.
There.
No, we found the one employee who doesn't watch these meetings.
This is like graduation. This is just a placeholder for your diploma.
Okay.
I'll fix it.
Yeah. No. Get the Crayolas out.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wow, you guys got this down cold. It's like, this is how you exit to stay off camera. I'm impressed. 2 2/3 of the room just left, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we are continuing our first public comment portion of our meeting. Do we have anyone in the audience wishing to address the board at this time? Mr. Music.
John Music, 45 Coventry Drive. Just a few quick things. I was reading an article that our sheriff went down to the southern border, and I want to thank him. He is a great sheriff. He keeps up with what is going on in this country, because last time I knew, Lake County was part of this country, and we are a border county, as we all know. And what's happening at the southern border, if it isn't already happening, it will be. So just remember that, and I want to compliment the sheriff for doing that, and he's proactive. And we need proactive people, we don't need reactive people. And Sheriff, I want to thank you, and I think the people of this county thank you.
Yeah.
And the next thing, I was going to talk to Jim, but he isn't here, so I'll talk to Tracy, and I mentioned it before the meeting. And it's just FYI, real quick. So the UK study led by the University of Leeds found out that the average electric car puts 2.24 times more stress on roads that are similar to petrol vehicles and 1.95 more than diesel. The larger electric vehicle can cause up to 2.32 times more damage to the roads. So as we get more and more electric vehicles on the road, I don't think anybody thinks about this when they decide to do all this stuff, but Tracy, good luck. You think you have road problems and bridge problems now? Wait till this all happens. So, okay. And the last thing I wanted to mention, as we all know, Tuesday. You know, everybody should read the Declaration of Independence. And, you know, I just want to read one quick sentence, because people, oh, it's a day off. Good. Yeah, but why do we have this day off? Actually, it was signed July 2nd. Started on July 2nd and was signed in August, if I remember correctly. Historian, Mr. Plechnik, you can correct me. But anyhow, this one sentence in here, it says, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Government works for the people. They do what the people have to say. And that's what always must be. And we never lose that. We've lost our country. When the government takes control of our country, we have lost our country. So people got to realize, you know, actually the world we live in, you know, like I said, 25 years ago, I was telling the sheriff, I made a prediction about what was happening down the border, because I've been working on it for over 25 years. And I made another prediction in 2008. And that's happening as we speak, as every day things are happening, and we're heading in that direction, which is the wrong. Soon the country that we know we will no longer have. So anyhow, beside the points, don't forget the true reason why we are honoring July 4th. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Sir?
14 on the agenda.
Oh, please, come on up to the mic if you could. Your name and address for the record.
Yep, my name's-
And you're wanting item 14, you say?
Oh, I don't know. It was public comment. I just was worried I was not speaking at the right time.
Oh, no, you got two bites at the apple.
Yeah. Oh, do I?
Oh, absolutely. You
Oh.
got this first one and you got the second one.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood, so I
That's
apologize
okay.
if I'm in the
No,
wrong
that's okay.
time
Welcome.
frame. All right, thank you.
First time visitor by the looks there.
First time visitor, so I just thank
So
you
if we
for
could
your
just have
time.
your name and
Yep.
address for the record, sir?
My name's Jim Safari. I live at 127 Water Street, Fairport Harbor, Ohio. Generally like to keep a pretty low profile, so I'll try to be brief and then be seated. So there's been a lot of discussion about development down at the Port Authority, down in Fairport Harbor. Lots of plans from a water park to now the transient boat ramp, and all of the associated development with that. What's given me pause is the plans throughout the years have indicated that my primary residence where I live is either there or not there, indicating that it may be eminent domain. And I propose my living there is a better use of my property than a parking lot or a driveway. I've spoken to the Fairport mayor, the administrator, Lake County Port and Development Board, trying to understand who the decision makers are, what the guiding principles of the project are, and if any alternative analysis have been properly vetted to determine that, if push comes to shove and eminent domain is there, that there is, a true, that this isn't the first option, but a, well thought out second or last option for taking private property. Taking private property, turn it over to a private firm, contract it to operate the yet to be built new port authority doesn't seem to be a proper use of, should it come to that, it doesn't seem to be a proper use for me. So I'm here to, one, to make sure that I'm on record saying that I like my house, I like where I live. I've always wanted to retire and spend my days kite surfing on Lake Erie while I can, and then talking to the waves when that's all I can do. Second, I wanted to ask your thoughts on who's in charge and any advice to stay engaged throughout the process. I will say everybody I've talked to has been very pleasant, but I'm sort of left with the feeling that taking my property and potentially other private property in the area has become a first choice, somehow driving the plans. Any advice or thoughts that I can, to make sure I stay engaged, make sure I have my opinion, on the record. I don't want it to ever be said, hey, you never said anything, so here I am saying something. And I do not understand when I ask who's in charge of the process. Well, the Port Authority, well, we're all working together to do this, but who's making the decision? And I don't understand. Oh, that's what I thought. Kathy! So that's all I had to say.
Would you be open to a meeting perhaps with our county administrator? If I'm familiar with the house, it's the one that they're going to be putting the fish cutting station next to. Is that the one? I've seen.
Yeah, it's the only house down there next to Steve's Bait Shop.
Jason's not okay. Our county administrator Jason Boyd perhaps.
Okay.
Walk you through the process.
Okay, because
I'm actually putting a face to a property owner.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Property,
yeah,
so.
and like I said, I've tried to keep a low profile until I needed to, and
Sure,
it feels the time
sure.
is now. So.
Jason, would you be open to that? Maybe. Okay.
Okay.
I could add a little bit maybe.
If you would, yeah. This is the time and the place. If you don't
Thank
mind,
you
we'll
all.
just get it all into the record and some discussion there.
Pleasure to meet you too. Yeah.
Good, sir.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thanks
bringing
a
this to our
lot.
attention.
Thank you all.
Yeah, just nice meeting you, sir. It is a complicated, exciting project, but I do understand your concerns 100%. So I'd be happy to get a meeting with myself and you and the LDA executive director and folks so that we clearly understand, and I do now, you're on the record. I just wanted to make it known that no actions have been made, et cetera, still in the planning design for the transient marina, but I'm well aware of your property. So I will get with you directly and we'll set a meeting in the near term. So.
Great.
Jason, thank you. Sir, again, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, anyone else in the audience wishing to address the, yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Good morning, I'm Margaret Bushman. I live at 5357 Ford Road. And as you know, our road's been closed for almost a year now. And I want to know what has been done specifically to prepare prior to the road money being released. What's been done to prepare for repairs to Ford and to Payne? And I see Mr. Hills isn't here today to answer that question. So.
Tracy, can you give a high level at least review?
So as far as Ford Road, a consultant was hired. They've done their survey work. They've been doing their type study to try to determine what type of structure would need to be constructed there. Payne Road is farther in the process. Payne Road has a consultant that has plans that are almost complete and permitting that's complete. So that will probably be about another month per se, and then they should have those plans ready for construction when the funding is available.
And how long after the funding is available will it begin construction? Or that's impossible to say, huh?
Well, once the funding was available, it would go through the bidding process, and then awarding a contract. Depending how quickly we could move that along, we're probably anywhere 4 to 6 weeks to have a contract. But then it's dependent because Payne has a wall that's being constructed. And so then we get into materials, ordering steel and availability. On quite a few of our projects this year and the last few years, really, we've encountered delays in receiving all of the materials due to product shortages or construction shortages in the companies that they don't have the labor. So it's a matter of bidding.
And then we're going to get into winter.
Yes, the only good thing about projects like Payne, and you didn't mention Williams, but it's very similar with a wall. Those are projects that they could start, and depending how bad the weather is, they could work on those in the winter, unlike a project where they're doing paving that needs to wait for spring, and that's more weather dependent.
And do you know what are the priorities as far as fixing things, in what order they're going to be fixed? Does Williams getting closed jump it ahead of Ford Road and Payne? Or is Payne's farther along in the process, so it would be the first one to get the funds?
Currently in our office, the list that Mr. Gills has prepared has all of them equal and has them all in the same priority.
Well, that's going to cause a problem. And so, does the July 13th tax budget include funds for the roads?
No, ma'am, that would not be a series of earmarking of dollars. Those are just the authorization to collect funds in general.
Okay, that's it. Okay, all right. And how close to being closed is Blair Road? Because there's rumors that Blair Road's in danger of being closed.
I know there are rumors going around like that. Blair Road is not in good condition as far as where we would want it, but it's not in a state yet that it would need to be closed. We continue to monitor Blair Road in hopes of trying to keep that one open until the others could be opened as well. We did apply for Ohio Public Works Commission funding, a grant to try to help with the money needed to construct Blair. That won't be awarded though until July of 2024. That's when we would know if we were successful and we received a contract agreement with Ohio Public Works.
Well, thank you very much. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am. I do feel compelled, though, you did say that it's a problem to be doing them all at once or considering them all equal priorities. I feel obligated to say that the engineer's office and government has the capacity to take on more than one project at a time. So if I'm saying anything that's not correct from the engineer's perspective, putting one project over another is not essential. They're coming together.
Right, but the money will only stretch so far.
Ma'am, we're sitting on $114 million. We're trying to figure out how to make this work. I think we can honestly say we've agreed in principle that this needs to be addressed. We're just wrestling over how to fund it. So if you've got more than $114 million worth of problems down there, we got bigger problems. I'm just editorializing a little bit, but I feel compelled to give you some comfort that that one project is not going to knock another out. I think we've all tried to be very diplomatic as to how to approach this, but we're getting down to, and you pointed out, winter construction seasons.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and unless I miss my guess, you don't have all these cool letters after your name about engineer and surveyor and all that stuff. This is just good old-fashioned common sense, so.
Right.
Thank you.
But when people joke and say, you know, well, you guys aren't going to show up if we fix your road, it's just kind of disheartening because it's not a joking matter.
Fair.
It's a serious and could wind up being a life-threatening matter.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Tracy, thank you for sharing that information. All right, anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Anyone else at all? Sir? Good morning.
Morning. I'm Christian Weiss. I live in Leroy Township. I would have liked to have been here last week, but I chose to take my 3 sons to a place formerly known as Fort Benning for a Ranger reunion, change of command, Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and hang out with some of my Ranger veteran friends. You can all sleep well at night knowing that the 75th Ranger Regiment, 2/3 of it, is deployed around the world defending America, and that they are also training Rangers to continue to defend our country. I've even had the opportunity, and I'll bring this to a point quickly, to meet a guy named Roy Wagner, who enlisted as a private in the Ranger Regiment, became Ranger qualified, and his performance as a Ranger was so exemplary that they sent him directly to West Point, bypassing the West Point Preparatory School, and he went through West Point and got a commission as a second lieutenant, ultimately made the rank of colonel. But what's relevant to his activities currently, or in the last 2 years, was that in 2021, when the Biden administration and the U.S. State Department failed to protect American interests and got engaged in the embarrassment called Afghanistan, or ending that, he personally undertook to put together his own private army of Rangers, Green Berets, Navy SEAL veterans, and went over there and rescued over 1,000 American citizens and hundreds of Afghanis who had proven their loyalty to the United States during the global war on terror. Every single person was vetted by the State Department, having U.S. citizenship, valid passport, and green cards. Why did I bring that up? That has nothing to do with county business. It has to do with citizens, particularly veterans, continuing to serve for life, which is one of the reasons I'm here. While I was on my trip, I did watch the commissioners' meeting, and very first person to come up was our clerk of courts, Miss Andrews, and she was up here to declare that she had a $300,000 surplus, which she decided she wanted to earmark that for the Phase 2 gun range for the Sheriff's Department. And without taking anything away from the Sheriff's Department, personally, I think those kinds of expenditures are proper and necessary, and I'm not here to speak against funding the Sheriff's Department. What I'm here to speak about is, over the past number of years, not only has the Clerk of Court's office funded $1.5 million for the COPS grant, $275,000 for a wine region sign, and other things. And I've been told that this department has close to $6 million in surplus funds. I want to know why those funds don't get turned over to the general fund and are properly allocated by the commissioners, because I don't believe, while I understand that various departments have independently elected officials who can basically do what they want to do, and in this case she's demonstrated that, okay, these people also lack the global perspective on how to use funds that are outside the purview of running their department for the county's necessary business. That falls to you 3 gentlemen, okay? Now, Ms. Andrews actually quoted the Ohio Revised Code, and I found that quite interesting because she quoted ORC 325.33. I'm not going to read the entirety of that ORC code, but it talks about, you know, how funds are generated and used in the conduct of the Clerk of Court's office. But the last paragraph I found to be particularly interesting. It says, if the Board of County Commissioners and the Clerk of Courts agree that the money in the fund exceeds what is needed to pay the cost specified in Division A of this section, Division A referring to operating the Clerk of Court's office, Title Bureau, and so forth, the excess may be transferred to the County General Fund and used for other purposes. If the Board of County Commissioners and Clerk of Courts are unable to agree on the amount of any such excess, the County Budget Commission shall determine the amount that will be transferred to the County General Fund. Now, why I think that's important here is, again, we have a department with a $6 million surplus and who's funded multiple millions of dollars into the general fund for projects that the elected official wants to earmark. I don't think that that's that particular official's business, okay? We have another department, the county engineer, who's in need of funds through no fault of the engineer, okay, in executing his duties, and yet we want to earmark $275,000 for a wine region sign, okay? Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for other things. You know, this to me smacks of politics, okay? I mean, if there's a surplus, then the surplus should be declared, should be turned over to the general fund, and the commissioners should then decide what's the best use of those funds, okay? I don't understand why a surplus hasn't been declared for the nearly $130,000 the taxpayers had to pay to defend Miss Andrews in her lawsuit with the judges, or I'm sure there's going to be additional premiums paid on the judicial liability policy. Okay, this from an official whose personal conduct, demeanor, and management style would have gotten her kicked out of any corporation in this country for cause, that has embarrassed this county severely, caused 7 judges to take affirmative action. Now, I realize ultimately she prevailed in that case, but my God, okay, this money, it's clear to me, because I'm going to call BS on any other thing here. I think that this money clearly is being used by her or earmarked by her so that she can then go out and rehabilitate her reputation to stay in office. This from a person who was actually got to run as a joke. Hey, Faith, why don't you run for clerk of courts? You know, and she won. Okay, so my central point is I feel that the commissioners should send the budget committee to review this and bring all that money into the general fund, and the commissioner should decide how to use it, not the subordinate elected political official. Okay? I want to shift here. Do I have a little more time?
Wrap it up, sir.
Okay. Shifting quickly to the roads and bridges, you know, I heard discussion about foraging for funds. I find that to be ridiculous, okay? The fact that Mr. Gills forages for funds, to use the quotes from Mr. Plechnik and Mr. Hammercheck, you know, good on him for doing everything he can do to get keep the roads in service and perform the office that he has. But at the same time, it shouldn't be his responsibility to do that, okay? I heard Mr. Plechnik say he gets $10 million a year to run his department. And I've heard people say, well, you know, there's reports sent and it shouldn't be a surprise that roads go down. You know, I think that people fail to understand that the infrastructure in this country, okay, and I'll stand point with roads and bridges, is failing, okay? We have many roads, many bridges, many structures that are functionally obsolete. That's an engineering term meaning the thing needs to be replaced, okay? It could actually fail. Okay, hopefully not global catastrophic failure where people die, but they're failing, okay? I don't believe that holding the engineer responsible to come up with the money to do his job and repair roads that you guys are the fee simple title holders of as a county infrastructure, that should not be his requirement, and the shift should not be placed on him to have done that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for your service to our country. Welcome.
Good morning. Frank Lambrino, Lake County Sheriff's Office. I just wanted to clarify a couple things regarding Clerk Andrews and the use of some of that funding. First of all, 2 funding sources were not just for the Sheriff's Office. They benefited major components of Lake County. One of the fundings was for the COPS grant, which funded policing to all of our townships. The second funding source is to the Lake County Range, which is not just for the Sheriff's Office. Every police department throughout Lake County will have free access to a state-of-the-art training center. And that's an important investment for all Lake County, not just in the Lake County Sheriff's Office. Finally, I wanted to clarify, in terms of budgeting, there are things, monies that are put aside that you can't expend right away because of great large projects that are going out. One of the biggest taxes mean burdens on county entities today is technology, which is extremely costly. The public certainly demands that we stay up to date with technology to protect the county. Our CAD system is up and needs to be updated. We dispatch for 20 police and fire agencies throughout Lake County. Computer-aided dispatch, which is 7 years old, needs to be updated, and that's a $2 million investment. One of the things that the clerk of courts has to fund, which is coming up, and I don't want to speak for the courts, but the technology or the operating system for court records has to be updated, and I believe within the next 1 to 2 years. That will be $2.5 to $3 million that will have to come out of the clerk of court's budget to pay for that. That's not something you can just instantly do. That's money that's been put aside. So there are these amounts that are out there that exist on books in various departments and through the commissioner's office. However, people need to be aware there are big investments that have to be taken care of with that money. It's not just free money floating out there and we don't know what to do with it. There's a lot that needs to be done. $100 million is a huge amount of money, but I understand the burdens for Lake County in the use of this funds are great. If you were to fund every project that needs to be done in Lake County right now, you would probably need well over $200 million to do that. So I just wanted to clarify that because people need to understand some of those funding sources. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That does touch upon, and I've run this theme, I actually think Mr. Weiss touched on it, more of a global approach to things, comprehensive, you've got to look at everything. But Sheriff, thank you for tying that up. Madam Clerk, did you want to add anything to the discussion?
One thing, because the sheriff
Well, but ma'am, you're off microphone and we'll wait for you.
Sheriff pretty much wrapped it up. I mean, basically explained, you know, that the funding of the stuff that I've provided out of title surplus, what is funded, has been beneficial to more than, you know, a whole bunch of people in Lake County. And the people benefit especially from the COPS grant. Additionally, these are asks from the commissioners, you know, and then the stuff sits in title surplus. The reason why it does is because I've run my office so efficiently with the hard work of my staff that generates the surplus, and we run things so efficiently that the general fund does not pay for the title operation at all. All that money and the surplus is over and above what it costs to run the operation. That includes brick and mortar, salaries, everything. So that surplus and anything I use that for is pure profit, okay, generated by the hard work and again efficiency, the way that we run our office. So none of that is coming out of the general fund, and therefore it is not a burden to the people because everything that comes out of the general fund is paid for, you know, by the taxpayer. And then I'm able to you know, based on different things that, because again, as the sheriff so aptly put it, to fund everything that you guys are requested to fund, it would probably cost us $200 million. So you all look at the things that you feel like are, you know, the hot button items, if you will, and then you come to me and you ask me, hey, what do you think about this? And we sit down and we talk about it. I take a trip out to the gun range, you know, talk to the sheriff. And then we make an agreement on the amount, and I declare a surplus, which then goes to the general fund for the project you all have requested me to fund, or the sheriff, or the public defender. Again, I'll go through the list. I funded a public defender project. This benefits everyone when we reduce recidivism rates in this county. I funded the COPS grant, and the sheriff told you all about that. I funded an education program through Auburn Career Center, provided seed money for that, which benefits the youth of our county. Yes, I am also looking forward to helping the private sector. The wine region in this county is a huge economic development driver, part of ag, one of two big economic development drivers in this county. And then the gun range. This was something that we had been talking about since I came into office, and finally it has materialized. Very excited about the possibility of regional, bringing people in from different regions. I don't know the laws about whether or not we can charge folks for using that. I mean, the people in Lake County will be using it for free. But if this thing is as state-of-the-art as I believe it's going to be, I think the word is going to get out, and we might be able to bring in some people from around the region, maybe around the country. And those people will stay at our hotels and eat at our restaurants and maybe go to our wineries. So these are all of the forward-thinking. When I have discussions with the commissioners about these things, we look at not just plugging a hole. I look at how is it going to benefit the entirety of Lake County from all perspectives, including economic development. If anyone has any questions, by the way, please feel free to get in touch with me directly. Anything else? Any questions, folks?
Mr. President,
Sir.
I'd like to point out too that if you saw last week's meeting that the clerk has also agreed to help with the roads and bridges and committed funds to that too already. So
we're working on that, absolutely. And there's been another ask as well that I'm just starting to, take a look at, working with the prosecutor's office. So, okay.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, continuing on our first public comment portion, Mr. Music, you have something new to add, sir?
Yeah, John Music, 45 Coventry. I just want to make a comment in regards to the Sheriff's Department. I totally recommend on Friday and Saturday nights, 9 to 12, they have On Patrol Live. It's actually cameras that ride with 8 different police departments here in the United States, and Toledo, Ohio being one of them. And they had on there a wanted. They're looking for this one guy. He was in jail. 4 of them escaped from the jail. And then they finally captured them all. And then 2 of the 4 got back out. And the sheriff said, we're trying to build a new facility. We're doing the best with what we got. But he said, I can't guarantee we're not going to have any more escapes. He says the building is it is what it is. So just realize we've got to give the sheriff the tools to do his job. And like I said about the border, people don't know what goes on the border, but it will soon be here, trust me. It's probably already here, you just don't know about it until they had that raid about the drug cartels. Hey, they're here. Come on, wake up, folks. But the thing about it is, we got to give the sheriff his tools. But I just wanted to tell you, that sheriff, they contacted the sheriff, and it's a great show. And then they have 2 are now and still in law enforcement, and this other one's retired, and they talk about what goes on. But you actually see what a deputy or police officer does. So I highly recommend it. But there, that poor sheriff, his words were, I can't recommend that we won't have it. Tell you that we won't have any more because I can't guarantee that because of his jail status. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. But I also, as I do at these times, feel compelled to say that at no time has anyone, including our official staff, indicated they were at an elevated risk for escape from our county jail. I do not want the public to think that that is any more a risk today than it was yesterday or a year ago. So I realize other parts of the country, other parts of the state are being stressed. Our jail staff is top-notch. The efforts that go into the securing of that facility are ongoing, and vulnerability risk assessments are also ongoing. So again, I appreciate your presentation, I appreciate your passion, but I do not want anybody to think that our jail is an escape risk hazard at this time. Sir, this is not a debate. If you have something new to add, please feel free, but I do not wish to enter into a debate on this issue.
All I want to say is that sheriff didn't even know it. They went, oh, I'm not going to say how they got out, but I'm just going to say it. And I never said it would happen today or tomorrow, but the longer we delay the jail, all jails have problems, all of them, eventually, the older they get. And I never said that ours is at that point. I never said that. So the thing about it is, I am just saying is, can I say it, that we don't get a new jail in 10, 15 years? Could I say that? I don't know. But I never, ever said that we are in that position that they are. But that's what the sheriff said at that location. So I just want to clarify that. I never said that about the Lake County Jail.
Sir, I'm being abundantly clear, and I'm sure you'll go back and watch this video. I am not saying that you did say that. I just do not want anybody to misconstrue your statement as such. So let's just agree that that is where we're at, and that there is no elevated risk at our Lake County facility because of its age and current and or projected conditions. I need to be abundantly clear on that. So thank you, sir.
And when I was
Thank you, sir.
and where I was being proactive
Thank you,
was
sir.
saying we need to give him the tools to do his job.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to address this board at this time? We're still in our first public comment portion. Is there anyone wishing to address the board at this time? Seeing no takers. Madam Clerk, first agenda item, please. Thank you.
In the engineer's office, resolution authorizing the release of a portion of the construction surety pledge release number 1 and number 2 for the villas at Canterwood Farms Phase 2 in Concord Township.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution awarding a bid contract to Cargill Incorporated for Lake County Road Department Salt 2023 for treated rock salt as required by the Lake County engineer in the amount of $487,860, LCE project number 2023-11.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution awarding a bid contract to Compass Minerals America Incorporated for the Lake County Road Department Salt 2023 for untreated rock salt as required by the Lake County engineer in the amount of $970,200, LCE project number 2023-11.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Utilities Department, resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Water Fund and Project Fund 595, Project 459W 2022, East 357th Street Water Line.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
And Job and Family Services Department, resolution approving Lake County Department of Job and Family Services vouchers, date of warrant July 7, 2023, in the amount of $116,119.17.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Commissioner's Office, resolution accepting and approving the recommendation of Planning Commission member Pamela D. Kurt to remove Lynn Yohe as her alternate on the Planning Commission and to designate Kim Gilmore to serve as her alternate on the Lake County Planning Commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution reappointing Pamela D. Kurt to the Lake County Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board for a 4-year term commencing July 1st, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution appointing Beverly Shalero to the Lake County Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board for a 4-year term commencing July 1st, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution appointing William Wilson to the Lake County Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board for a 4-year term commencing July 1st, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution amending the Lake County credit card policy.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
And the Finance Department resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $2,399,714.06.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $1,377,196.73.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing and decreasing appropriations of various non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring cash and appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Very good. Moving on to departmental reports. Utilities.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to expand on what Tracy had mentioned earlier as far as materials and availability. It's definitely real. Something like fire hydrants. In 2019, we could order a dozen or so and have them delivered on the next Monday. Right now, we're looking at up to a year's wait just to get a dozen or so hydrants. Different materials are available, others are not. So it's definitely real as we try to plan these projects and move forward. But it's very difficult to predict timelines these days.
Got it.
Mr. President?
Sir.
Might I ask, would it make sense, given the supply chain shortages we've seen and the possibility these problems could recur, that in the case of non-spoiling assets like a fire hydrant, perhaps we should purchase some extra so that we're not subject to the vulnerabilities of the market in the future? I know we couldn't have seen this coming, but are we looking to get a few extra in reserve just in case?
We do, yeah. All of our materials right now, we're stocking significantly more than what we had previously. The just-in-time stocking method is not really an effective way to fill your stockroom these days.
When I was but a young accounting major, everyone loved just-in-time and total quality management, TQM, JIT. Those were the hot buzzwords of the day, and they work very well when international markets flow perfectly. Not so much today.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Job and Family Services.
Thank you, Commissioner. A couple of months ago, I talked about May being Public Assistance Fraud Awareness Month, and that Job and Family Services had received some grant funding to put up a billboard that could be seen off of Route 2 and Route 20 so that folks know how to report potential public assistance fraud. That grant funding covered the billboard for May and June. We received some additional funding, so that billboard will be extended through July and August. I wanted to remind folks that if anyone suspects that someone is abusing their public assistance benefits, including food assistance, cash assistance, and Medicaid, that they could report that at jfs.ohio.gov/fraud. And secondly, I just wanted to take a second to congratulate Bobby as well, who was recognized earlier in the meeting. I've had the pleasure of knowing Bobby for many years. She's actually working right now in the Job and Family Services building as a custodian too, and she's going to be greatly missed. She has done a really wonderful job keeping the building clean and safe for our staff members and for all those who visit the Job and Family Services building. So thank you, Bobby, and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything for Job and Family Services? All right. Moving on to County Administrator.
Yes, good morning, and Suzanne stole my thunder. I also want to congratulate Bobby on your hard work for Lake County. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I wish you nothing but success in the future, so thank you. And then briefly, Commissioners, had our weekly call with HOK on the Public Safety Center yesterday. We will be looking to schedule with the Sheriff's team a kickoff meeting with HOK back in town sometime in July, so I'll keep the Commissioners apprised of that date, where we'll take a look back at what we've done to date, make sure there's no programmatic changes, start to lay out timelines and expectations as we move forward. HOK has secured approximately 80% of all their subs. You can imagine the amount of team members and disciplines that they've had to onboard since we signed the contract 2 weeks ago, and that's moving well. So the first kickoff meeting looks to be in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything for Administrator?
Mr. President?
Sir.
I see that the sheriff has a big new tool, a big hammer, 2 M's, to keep things on task over there.
Sledge-o-matic. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Yes, I wanted to mention that the county offices will be closed on Tuesday, July 4th, but we will be open on Monday, July 3rd. And also, I wanted to mention that next week, the commissioner meeting is going to be held on Wednesday, July 5th, here in Chambers at 10 a.m. And just, want everyone to be safe this holiday weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything for our clerk? Thank you. Okay, moving on to legal. Sir.
Just congratulations to Bobby and Bob both for the retirement, and no other report, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. Anything for legal? Okay. Engineer, anything you wish to add to today's meeting?
Just very briefly, just like Utilities Department, we're also instituting the same practice of trying to stock more materials. We were able to replace a 42-inch concrete culvert on Lockwood Road only because we had it in stock, and right now it's the same way. You're looking 9 to 12 months to get concrete pipes and basins. So we're doing the same also with State Route 2 with the lighting components. Every time our contractor is able to find more parts, we're purchasing extra fuses and more pieces that they can find to try to make those repairs.
And then on that Route 2 issue, they're circling back, there was a contractor that had disabled the electrical system in a way that was not consistent with ODOT standards or usual and customary electrical practices, and it's proven to be a very challenging process bringing those lights back online in addition to getting parts. That's an ongoing, I still see the occasional email come through. That's pretty much the same story.
May I comment on that?
Oh, absolutely.
We do want to thank Wendy Zeely of First Energy because we reached out to her. It did take a little while for her to get back and to be able to have that in place, but First Energy was able last week to re-energize that pole. They were able to find the proper fuse, and so now our contractor can work on that also to restore the lighting in that area around 615. The Hendricks Bridge area is actually where they had it turned off for safety.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, that brings us now to old business. Do we have any old business coming to the board?
Mr. President?
Sir.
The oldest business that we're going to be addressing on July 4th is the anniversary of our nation's birth. And as we get closer and closer to 2026, the 250th anniversary, you're going to see more and more celebrations throughout Lake County. As of our last commissioners meeting, I'm grateful for the unanimous vote to form the 250th Commission, where we're going to be coordinating with nonprofits, villages, townships, cities to make sure that we give full recognition to this historic event. Although I am somewhat hopeful I'll make it to the tricentennial, many of us realize that 250 is as far as we're getting, so I think we need to celebrate this one as proudly as we can as American patriots. And that kickoff to the many events that will follow is going to be this July 4th, right in front of our county courthouse, where we're going to be dedicating a bronze plaque to all the Revolutionary War veterans who are buried in Lake County. This was a project that was first envisioned by the Daughters of the American Revolution for New Connecticut, aka Ohio. And with their partnership and work, we're going to start the process of honoring our nation's 250th birthday the way we should start everything, with a thank you to the veterans who made it possible. So we want to encourage everyone to join us 10 a.m. on July 4th in front of the courthouse so that we can begin this great celebration, with special thanks to the judges for granting their permission to erect this permanent monument on behalf of the Revolutionary War veterans for Lake County. So I'm confident that most of the people in this room will be there, but we want to invite our friends and neighbors because this is open to the public. 10 a.m. July 4th, a kickoff to our nation's 250th birthday, and a wonderful opportunity to make a permanent statement about this country's past, present, and hopefully great future.
Very good.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
On the topic of events, while not quite as important or historically monumental as July 4th, we obviously want to extend our support to Fairport Harbor Mardi Gras. This is a nonprofit from the community. It's a long-standing tradition in Lake County to celebrate, and I know they're kicking off, I believe, tonight. So many Lake County residents are going to be going to Fairport Harbor to celebrate together. I will see you there. So just wanted to say, over the next couple days, Fairport Harbor is celebrating their big community event. Always a wonderful time. So that invitation to the side. The final thing that I want to share is that we've certainly heard some difficult topics over the last couple years as a local government. No one coming through COVID, the lockdowns, the budgetary consequences that have followed, has had a series of easy decisions to make. Whether it's Lake County or Willowick or Willoughby Hills or the state, we've all had to make difficult choices, some right, some wrong. But I believe that we make those choices better and we're more successful when we work together. I know as we discuss difficult political topics, our first instinct can be to be very defensive and to push and pull and fight for what we believe is important and right. And as someone with a lawyer's training, my first instinct is to make my case and to be an aggressive advocate too. So I understand that drive. But I would just encourage all of us collectively to remember that we care about the future of Lake County, and we only succeed when we work together. And while it's very easy to point a finger and blame, and sometimes there is a responsible party. Sometimes it's true, yes, one group or person is more responsible than others for a problem. Sometimes there's not, and there's almost always a disagreement as to who that group or person may be. It's almost never productive to spend the majority of your time pointing the finger. You're usually going to get more done when you're helping to do the work rather than wagging a finger. And I'm probably as guilty as anyone of being a forceful advocate for my position, so take this as a criticism of myself first. But I know we have difficult issues we're going to be working on over the next forever. So let's try to remember that the sheriff's office is not in competition with the engineer's office, and the commissioners are not in competition with the recorder or the clerk. We're a team, and we're all working for the same residents in Lake County. So I think it's really important that at commissioners' meetings, where we bring all those unique concerns together and make very difficult decisions, we remember that throwing someone under the bus, even if you work for Lake Tran that has a lot of buses, usually doesn't work out very well. It usually doesn't solve the problem. Instead, we need to collectively work together to find a solution. And more often than not, no one is going to be perfectly happy with that solution because there's never unlimited money. We have some big numbers that get thrown through the county budget. There certainly are, because we represent 232,000 people. Unfortunately, the big revenue numbers often face even larger potential expenditures because there are very necessary and very important things that have to be budgeted for that cost many, many millions, tens of millions, and sometimes even hundreds of millions of dollars. So I don't want to be boring or blasé in what I'm saying here, but I know there was a little spark and fire earlier And I want to reiterate my commitment to showing the highest respect to all of my colleagues, even when I sincerely disagree. And to members of the public who speak with us, this is an important forum. And your voice is heard by a lot of people, not just the folks sitting here. Many folks, from the county employees to concerned citizens, watch every single meeting. And so understand we all have the bully pulpit when we come together here, and I want to work together with you to make sure that we use that bully pulpit for the greater good of Lake County rather than trying to tear each other down, which almost never results in a positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Continuing under old business, anything? I do have Director Stefanko here from our Telecommunications Department as we've been talking about our county radio system and systems associated closely with that. I believe we have an update from one of our key vendors on this. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Commissioner Plechnik mentioned collectively working together. The Telecommunications Department doesn't directly catch bad guys. We don't put fires out. We don't dispatch for law enforcement. We're in a support role, and it's our job to bring to the commissioners recommendations and suggestions on how to improve or repair or replace communication equipment. We have noticed and been aware of a few systems that we have that we believe should be replaced or improved or even installed, and there are 5 of them that I would recommend. Now, normally when we would buy something, we buy them one at a time, but if there's an opportunity to purchase things in a bundle, sometimes we can save some money. So the 5 that I would recommend, 5 that we've been discussing actually, are encryption for police and fire, for their radios, adding 2 channels to our radio system, adding location on push-to-talk and emergency, which would allow dispatchers to know where a radio or an officer is in distress and pushes his emergency button, would identify on a map where that person is. Adding a new recording system for 911 and non-emergency calls for our central dispatch center, and fire station alerting. If purchased separately, the total would be over $3 million, but if it's bundled, it'd be about $1.1 million less than that. Right now, Motorola is offering a $1.1 million reduction, or 33% reduction, if we were to purchase this by September 27th. So I bring this to you for your consideration. I can answer any questions you might have, or do any research that you would have to gain more information if you need it.
Well, I'll dive in. So, in no particular order, station alerting. The station alerting system that we have now, it is a primary for our east side. We are adding another station. I believe it was Willoughby Hills.
That's correct. Yes.
And that price includes the additional station.
Yes, it does. It brings the number of stations to 14 that the system would be alerting when a call comes into central dispatch for fire department. The fire station alerting system works and works well with our CAD system. So when the dispatcher types in the incident and hits return, it automatically notifies the fire stations that are going to be involved in that response.
And that's, again, a lot of times the public does not understand this. Firefighters, paramedics, they're not just sitting around waiting for a call to come in. They are doing other tasks, and they wait for that alarm, if you will. And if a station alerting system fails, we have actually had to have dispatchers not only call telephones in the station, cell phones, to say, hey guys, you got a call. And this is not making light, this is a reality. So we heard today, we've got to give our people the tools to do the job. This is an example of they can't do their job if they don't know they're being called. Is that a reasonable statement, sir?
Yes, sir. One of the unique things, and I'll be brief, with this particular fire station alerting product is that it has what they refer to as dual path, so that when the dispatcher enters the information and hits send, there are 2 different separate individual paths that request or command is sent to the fire station. One is sent over our radio system and one is sent over the internet. And either one of them can then turn the lights on, open the doors, play a recording over the loudspeakers to alert the fire station. It's the only one that can do dual path, and because of that, the fire stations that do have dual path receive a better ISO rating, which equates into lower fire insurance for residents.
And when it comes to ISO ratings, again, the east side has been a topic of discussion of late. In many cases, there is not water. There are what are called dry hydrants. And we'll look to our utilities if you want to add in, but that is where the fire department actually will connect a suction line and pull water out of a pond in order for obtaining firefighting water. That is a real challenge when you want to have homeowners insurance, but when you have anything that helps reduce that and response rate, that's important. So that is not, ISO ratings are not something to be taken lightly. Let's go with our channel ad. Our system has the ability to, right now, without modification, add 2 channels. I believe the state of Ohio, in a future budget cycle, has offered to add 2 channels and volunteer, I shouldn't say volunteer, I don't want to say gift, but transfer assets to us that would add those channels. I believe that would be at no cost to us.
That's correct. If we had 2 channels, the state of Ohio would put this 2 additional channels. It would put it in the state's budget for next year, which is not a guarantee by any means, but it would be a request from the Ohio Mark system to the state of Ohio's budget to add 2 channels to the Lake County system, increasing our number of channels by 4, which is 20%, which would be a considerable improvement. Our system right now does not have a busy problem, although next year we fully expect that our public safety system and public safety forces will be tasked in April with solar eclipse coming, and this would be in anticipation of that. And extra capacity is never something that would hurt you in the future as far as the radio system. We've been very, very fortunate in adding channels over the years. We did start out with 13, we now have 20, and we do that 1 or 2 at a time whenever the opportunity presents itself. And we benefit from that in that we don't almost ever have a busy signal.
And where that becomes an issue, the busies. Nothing's more disheartening than you need to get an emergency transmission out and the radio honks at you. It's like, wait your turn.
And there are busy systems in Ohio, and Lake County does not have that problem, and we don't intend to have that problem.
And much of this philosophy has grown out of the real kickoff was the Perry Nuclear Power Plant, but it's also a recognition of interstates, railroads, air. In the event of an emergency, you scale your system to cope. This is a philosophy that we've held to. We have a public safety quality system. It's not a commercial grade. It's not some mom and pop configuration. This is one of the better systems, not only in the state of Ohio, but in the nation. That's something we can take pride and comfort in.
We are Zone 2 for the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio's radio system, known as MARCS, is the largest public safety radio system in the country. There's over 140,000 radios on it, and Lake County owns and operates Zone 2, which controls all of the radio towers in northern Ohio and for the MARCS system, and works very, very well. We have an agreement with the MARCS system through 2039 for upgrades and support. It's a very good position to be in as far as public safety radio. Lake County has the best in the country.
And moving on to the recording system, generally overlooked by the public. They don't even realize that that's taking place. But do you want to give a little background on that, please?
The current system is old. It's been hit by lightning several times. We do need a new recording system. Replacing it with the system that I would recommend. The dispatchers compared the 2 systems. They very much like the system that I would recommend. It's voice over IP, state-of-the-art, and very capable of doing what the dispatchers would need for at least the next 5 years.
And that also goes to the local recall at the consoles, or they'd be able to post a separate system, same system.
Same system. It'd be tied into what they call the IRR, which is the immediate recall recorder, and dispatchers use this continuously. It also helps prosecutors and the prosecutor's office to recreate situations, fill out reports, and many times they have audio files. This is a very streamlined system. It does not require lengthy reproduction of audio files as the current system does. And it's one of the reasons why the dispatchers like it so much.
And that instant recall, stress levels of dispatchers, they're generally overlooked. They get the first hot call. They have to deal with handling, how do we proceed? And if there's that moment of, what did I just hear or not hear? That instant recall is essential. Also, you're not re-victimizing the person on the phone by saying, hey, can you repeat that? Or drilling down on them. This is actually a tool that helps manage a situation.
Dispatchers go from 0 to 100 in a second, in one ring of a phone call. And many times when they do get calls from residents that need immediate help from public safety and fire, the caller is not calm and collected. And given that, they use the recording system as a tool to get the proper and the accurate information out to the law enforcement and fire that'll be responding to that emergency.
And moving on to location on push to talk, that is not only, go ahead, sir.
We've had a number of times in the past where a law enforcement officer, especially in the metro parks, if they need assistance, they'll push their emergency button, and if they can't speak for any reason, we don't know where they are. We might know that they're in a particular park, but in Lake County, that could be very difficult to find them, and in the past, that has happened. This particular tool would identify the location of the radio on a map, give us very precise vertical and horizontal coordinates, and put it on a map for central dispatch so that they would know within feet of where that person is.
And officers, firefighters, EMTs, they also go through stresses. And common example is the distinction between, I'll just say again, east side, Town Line Road versus County Line Road. When you're under stress, you might say the wrong thing and not realize you said it. Very different. When you need help or something's going on. Yeah. And final item you mentioned, encryption.
Encryption, currently the radios in Lake County, public safety radios, most of them, excluding narcotics and SWAT, do not have the capability of encryption, or do not have encryption in them. They can have encryption added to them. This request would do that for 1,487 radios, which is virtually all the police and all the fire radios that are the newer model. It's not state-of-the-art model, it's the newer model, which most of them have. There are a number of very, very old radios that would need to be replaced or would operate without encryption, but this would put the ability for police and fire to operate without being scanned and reproduced on the internet. Currently, today, you could take any computer, access the internet, and hear almost all the traffic in Lake County for all the police and all the fire. And that's a concern. The military has had that concern, and that is why today in the military, every single radio communication is encrypted, whether it's in Iowa or it's in Iraq. They're encrypted, and they do that for a reason. I think encrypting public safety radio, police, and fire, I think would be a good idea, and just put one more tool in their toolbox. I think it's a bad thing when the bad guys know that the police are coming. That's not a good thing for the police.
And on that the more softer side of that discussion, EMS. When you have an EMS call, there is HIPAA-protected information being put over the air. And that becomes problematic, and, well, we could,
Even though they might not say the guy's name over the radio, if a rescue squad rolls up across the street, you pretty much know what that radio communication is for when you hear it on a scanner.
and being dispatched to a particular address, that whole spiel. But the other issue is the fact that cell phones with an app on them now become a criminal tool. The bad guys are monitoring communications. Somebody's going to get hurt.
And they're getting smarter and smarter. Currently, our radio system changes channels. Every time you push the talk, you get a different channel. So scanners have a little bit more difficult time following a communication path, but the latest scanners can actually defeat that too. You can plug in what talk group you want to listen to, and it will follow that particular police department regardless of what channel it's on. But I knew these were all 5 requests, and perhaps if funding is available, purchasing them before September 27th would give us a 33% reduction, which is a considerable amount of money in my world.
So you managed to get them off to September 27th. That's a bonus. That's a little bonus time there. That's new information for me, so thank you. Just to also be clear, we do have buy-in regarding these items, especially the encryption from police, fire, EMS.
Police Chiefs Association, Fire Chiefs Association have both endorsed that.
And I understand as far as station alerting, they were made aware of it, I believe, ongoing, but yesterday, but we had to be careful not to make it sound like we're making an offer, but this is the proper venue to have this conversation so that it's abundantly clear. This is what we're looking at, but we're going to need a commitment for ongoing maintenance so we don't wind up in the same situation we find ourselves now.
Ongoing maintenance and upgrades. This particular package would mirror the radio system that we currently have and the agreement we have with the state of Ohio, where the state of Ohio pays for our upgrade every other year. That has become a problem in the past when our radio system upgraded and the fire station alerting didn't upgrade because there was not a funding source for it. This would take care of that, where the users would pay for the upgrades and the users would pay for the maintenance. So this would be a one-time cost to the county, but then the ongoing cost going forward would be paid by the users.
And these are not draconian costs. These are...
No, total cost, the initial cost would be approximately $60,000 a year. That would be divided by 14, and each department would pay their fair share for that.
Okay, and I'm just thinking this through. Some stations are more high volume. When you say fair share, all this could be some sort of an agreed upon formula. That detail I don't believe has been worked out yet.
It has in the past for the maintenance that we did provide in the past. They were paying one. There were 13 stations at the time. Each department would pay 1/13. Okay. For instance, if Painesville Township Fire had 2 stations, they would pay 2/13 of the cost, and that would have to be ironed out. But yes, that's likely what would happen.
Okay. And our timeline for commitment is this September 27th.
They need a purchase order by September 27th.
So we have our work cut out for us now to make sure that this is the right direction to go, and we can research ARPA funding, other such. The state is not prepared to be contributing anything at this time. The encryption, I know was talked about, but it did not make the final cut. So, and the state commitment for the additional 2 channels and other equipment would be next, or well, I should say the next cycle, which actually begins pretty much by the time this budget concludes at the end of this month. So, but that funding would not be available till sometime next year.
Yeah, that actually wouldn't result in funding. It would just result in Lake County receiving the equipment and having it installed. The state would actually pay for that if they approve it.
If they approve it.
In the budget.
But so just to be clear, would that funding for those additional channels potentially be in this budget?
No, it's next budget.
Next budget cycle. Okay. Gentlemen, anything further? Paul, thank you for your diligence.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, any other old business? Any other old business coming for us? All right, moving on to new business. Do we have any new business? Any new business coming before us? Okay, moving on to our second public comment portion. Is there anyone in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Gilda Spencer, 5580 Ford Road, Madison, Ohio. First of all, I want to thank you for your patience because I'm trying to understand how all of this works. So, my first question is to Tracy. Is there a written criteria on how you decide which roads are or they come in just at random, or how does that work? Am I allowed to ask that?
Well, that's through the chair, yes.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm not quite sure. You're asking how,
Well, like,
how the list was prepared?
yeah, you have Payne, you have, say, roughly Blair, you have Ford and Williams Road and that. How do you prioritize that?
Currently, the list is prioritized with all of them being equal.
Okay, but I mean, is it a written list that you can see, or is it just you?
It's a written list.
Okay.
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, and then my next question to you is,
Hold on. So it's a written list in the form of an inventory of roads that are closed, roads that are challenged, roads that are pending pavement, or we have, and I'm just kind of running this down in the interest of, you want to understand,
Yes,
hang on. It's
I
gonna get
appreciate that.
interesting. We also have roads that are pending pavement where you have a commitment, but you don't have the matching funds.
Correct.
So just to be clear, there's a whole list of things that all, again, a comprehensive, holistic approach. Just to be clear, that list is very comprehensive.
okay, so then you bring it back to the commissioners? Is that my understanding correctly?
Yes, Mr. Gills provided the commissioners with a copy of that list.
Okay. And then when it comes back to you, you do what with it?
Mr. President, I just want to jump in because I don't want there to be a misimpression, and I can see that you're puzzling through how the process works.
Yes.
The commissioners don't have a list from the engineer and then make decisions on what roads to repave.
Okay.
That's not how it works. The engineer's office is the department that's tasked with maintaining the roads. Ultimately, they make the prioritizations and the decisions. They can go to the state, the county, the federal government, the township, and then ask, I need more funding, would you provide it? And commissioners can make decisions just like the trustees, the legislators, shall we provide the engineer more money? But we don't get a list from the commissioner, and the engineer, and then decide which roads to repave. Ultimately, that's in the engineer's office.
Okay. All right, so then my next question would be, you had remarked that maybe in the next couple of weeks you would be making a major announcement. Are we there yet, or are we still?
We're very close.
Okay.
We're very close.
Okay. And then one more thing. When you do, I'm new to this, so when you do your first public person to speak, is that when I should be speaking, or because I've been waiting till the end because I thought it was longer?
You can do both.
I mean, it doesn't matter?
It does not matter.
Okay.
The first is limited to 5 minutes.
Okay.
This is pretty much, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Within reason. If it becomes
Mhm.
repetitive, redundant, abusive, all those things that usually get the hook, those would all apply. But no, this is, if you, like now, you're wanting to have a dialogue with us.
Mhm.
You might have heard me, Mr. Music and I have been friends for almost 20 years now. So when I say we're not going to have a debate, it's like, this is not the time.
Right.
But this is where we can have more of an interaction. This is less formal. I'm going to look to legal. Am I adequately characterize that in a non-legal way, more of a common sense, sir?
Yes, Commissioner.
So this is where, again, if you want to have this kind of a conversation, this is the
Okay.
time and the place for it, if that's what you're looking for.
I am. I want to make sure that I'm doing this correctly, so I have it comprehended when I get home and I sit down and I go through it all, because I do.
Sure,
So,
sure.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I am concerned still about my road, and I talked to the school superintendent. They believe that they are going to be able to supply some kind of van for my elementary kids out there. They don't do that for high school, which that's okay. I mean, I get that. So, but I'm trying to keep on top of it and understand where it's going.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, continuing the second public portion, is there anyone else wishing to address the board? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, that was just, I see this tiny little hand coming behind. Thank you.
Lori Bobin, 6067 Ford Road. Again, I'm here about the concerns with Ford Road, Blair, potentially being closed soon, as well as Payne. In a couple weeks, it will be a 1-year anniversary. So it can never come soon enough for us down there, especially for first responders. And my main concern does still come with emergency services for all of the citizens down in that corner. I appreciated, Tracy, hearing a little more perspective on a timeline. And again, while that still seems very lengthy, I understand it is what it is, but it's good to hear that there is progress being made. So I appreciate you gentlemen keeping it in the forefront, because again, it is a real community safety concern. And Mr. Hammercheck, I appreciate you reiterating when I came up to the board a couple months ago and said, please start somewhere, that it's encouraging to hear that there's a possibility that there could be multiple projects going on in that corner to kind of speed this up. Again, it can't come soon enough for the residents down in that area and their concerns, whether it be fire, safety, or what have you. And then the other thing I would like to say is I hope if there is any school board members watching, that there is something done, because there are a lot of young families down in that corner that impact Madison, Leroy, and I think possibly Concord. I'm not sure, since my children are out of that stage. But I hope they get something worked out, because it is not fair to those young families to have to figure this out for now an upcoming second school year that will begin here in less than 2 months, and have to figure out a way to transport their children. It's just not fair. And hopefully they are listening and they can work out something and be in contact with those parents who have to rely on getting their children to school in that corner until this gets resolved, which again, it can't come soon enough. And I realize it's still going to take a while, but it's definitely going to impact this next school year for sure. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Sir.
Jim, Tracy is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't get, Jim's a lot more boisterous, so.
If it's okay, I just wanted to share that Madison Township Transportation and Superintendent's Office have contacted our office, and I spoke with them about a week ago, and we discussed timelines, what we would be looking at, and it did sound very promising that they were going to try to find some way to provide transportation for the children.
Thank you.
Thank you for adding that. Sir.
Just briefly on my previous comments, Ms. Andrews came up to me and handed me her business card and invited me to come and talk to her, which is something I'll make a point to do. She said I'm misinformed, so to the extent I am misinformed, I will engage with her in a civil conversation, and if I find that I'm wrong, I'll be humble enough to come back and admit so. My comments were not intended to say anything contrary to the interests of the use of the money, okay? But my comments are intended to say that, well, and if it isn't clear yet, you guys have probably figured out I don't like politicians. I really don't like politicians, because they act like politicians. Yeah, so, you know, what I'm against here in this case is, and Mr. Plechnik, you said something I actually agree with. You guys all should be working together as a team, okay? And, you know, and that's I've been saying this every time I come up. And to the extent that these other offices, engineer, sheriff, and so forth, they're independently elected and they run their own program, the team effort, okay, is to further the benefits of all the residents of Lake County, okay? I don't see that as being the case when a public official wants to dole out a little bit of money here and there, take credit for it or direct it. I don't think Ms. Andrews has any credentials to go and determine what kind of range should be built. That's the sheriff's decision and his advisors to do. So on that note, I think that, and once again to the sheriff and Chief Izzo, I think they're doing an awesome job. I think they do probably one of the best jobs of any sheriff in the state of Ohio, if not the country, and support everything that they do. And if all the money is ultimately given to the sheriff's department, you guys decide to do that, I have no objection to that, okay, nor should I. One other thing, I wanted to agree with the gentleman who spoke on encryption, Paul, okay? Based upon what I know and what I've learned recently, I think, and I would agree, that encryption should be one of your highest priorities. There are going to be attacks coming against the homeland. They will come against our infrastructure, and they will come in a manner not only to take out key infrastructure, but also to attack those responders, not only first responders, but second and third tier responders trying to deal with those problems. I would invite the county to reach out to 75th Ranger Regiment. In 2017, they expanded the regiment, adding 2 battalions. One of them is Military Intelligence Battalion. And while I'm not privy to classified information because I am a civilian, I can tell you that that entire unit of approximately 600 Rangers is fully engaged 24/7, both stateside and abroad, in the defense of the homeland, and their capabilities, to the extent I've been made aware of them, are unbelievable, okay? They are dealing with all manner of threats. These threats are going to come from Chinese Communist Party, Chinese military, Russian intelligence services, even people we would think would be our friends, such as Mossad, are operating in our borders and looking at ways to undermine our country, okay? So I would, to the extent that my voice has any weight, I would not put that on the back burner. That's going to become increasingly important. On the matter of the salt, I saw you guys voted to pay for salt. And while this is no stink on you guys, I was disappointed to see that none of that was bought from Morton Salt. I used to work there as the chief engineer of the mine. Unfortunately, Morton Salt is not a viable company to supply salt. The most recent contract, when I was still employed there, they bid the state contract for salt, and Cargill bid the salt contract at about $37 per ton, which was less than our cost to bring the salt to the surface of the mine. Why do I go into mentioning that? You guys have talked about dealing with commerce and key businesses in Lake County. That would be a key business whose viability is very important to Lake County. There's hundreds of employees that work there in Grand River. We have an international shipping port, but due to mismanagement by the parent companies, Morton Thiokol, K+S, Raman Haas, is now owned by a company called Stone Canyon Industries. I really think that some engagement with Morton and to affect a better outcome. And this also kind of peripherally goes to infrastructure. The reason the Morton Salt plant can't produce salt that's at a competitive rate that you would buy it is because they didn't maintain the plant. They didn't maintain the capital equipment. Okay, Mr. Hamerchek had the opportunity to actually give him a tour of the mine when I worked there. He's been able to see firsthand how that operation works. So that's another thing I think that you should keep an eye on. In regards to the final statement I got to say about roads and bridges. So it's clear that you guys have the funds, $114 million in various accounts, an $8 million surplus, $11 million in total of investment returns coming in. It seems clear to me that at the very least, the commissioner's office could make a loan to the county engineer, that such that it could be forgivable. If you want to continue to have Mr. Gills forage for funds, at least back him with the money that he needs to perform now. Give him the opportunity to forage for the funds, but if he's not able to and other funds become available, those loans could be forgiven. I think that trying to bond it out and borrow money when you have money to pay for it is not fiscally the best decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Okay. So moving on, we do have a request for an executive session. The topic will be legal pending litigation ×2. There will be no business to be conducted afterwards. Do I have a motion to adjourn for the reasons so stated?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Very good. Thank you for joining us today.